Hello and welcome to a special Court of Swords one-shot, special roleplay one-shot, where it's just me and Adam. We can finally talk shit about those other three cast members that we're forced to play with every Tuesday. Because it's just us. No one else is here.
I don't know. I find it sort of sad. I'm sitting here wondering, like, do you think Max has played God of War yet?
Probably not.
I wonder.
I don't know. One must always wonder that. At all times of the day. I find myself constantly asking that.
Wonder if Dan has seen any movies lately, or
I did see that Dan tweeted that he was at a movie. I don't know what he saw, but I know that he was at a movie theater. And Zeke's just been playing Persona. So
yeah, Zeke has been playing Persona. Yeah.
I keep tabs on all of them throughout the week, so I know what to talk to him about on Tuesday. That's the secret.
Honestly, like sometimes as a person who occasionally does produce role-playing shows, it is important. You have to like do the check and see what they're up to so that you have that like, so I noticed you've been playing X, Y, or Z game.
Yeah.
Talk about it.
Yeah. It's just, that's my addiction to social media that allows for that. I just, constantly browse and see, okay, I'll put that in the memory files for Tuesday, but I can't remember where I put my phone 5 seconds later. So, you learn some skills, you forget others.
I mean, it's kind of like just how you keep up on people, right? Where you're just like, oh, Dan went and saw a movie, and oh, Zeke's on vacation or whatever. Like being able to, because then when we start the show, you can be like, yeah, I noticed this thing. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
I went and saw a movie. I actually did something between the last episode and this one. I was worried I wouldn't have anything to talk about.
What'd you do?
I know. It's only been a couple of days. I went and saw Weathering with You, which is a Japanese movie. It's by the same people who made
Your Name, right?
Yes, that's right.
I've wanted to see that. Is that any good? I actually know what this is.
Yes, it's really good. Yeah. I think
how long till like the pop music hit and the people started dancing and it got really emotional? How long was that?
Like right away. It's like, yeah. Yeah, it's like that moment in Your Name where you start, the music comes on and all the characters' eyes start tearing up. You're like, oh, here we go. Here comes the emotions. It's like that for like an hour straight.
Oh,
like
man.
They really just jump right into the Rad Wimps music and the intensity. But I think they kind of like, it feels to me like in Your Name, it took a lot more to build up to that. And so when it happens, it feels a little bit more like earned. Like it felt like it did come a little bit early in Weathering with You. But I gotta say, the animation and especially the like background cells are so good. Like so good. And the one that I saw, because I went and saw it in the theater, there was an interview after the credits with the director.
Oh, weird.
And he was saying that, and this is a very, very Japanese thing to do, where the interviewer said, like, your movie, each of your movies is more successful than the last. What do you attribute to this? And he says, oh, it's just luck. Like, it's just, so when we made Your Name, we started making it, Studio Ghibli had just like basically closed a bunch of its animation studios, right? Because they were kind of like running down and splitting up and stuff. It was like, so when we made Your Name, there were all these animators who, because they're animation dweebs, they had seen my other movie, which no one had ever seen, which isn't true, but it's a classic Japanese guy thing to say. Yeah. He was like, yes, all these people just quit Studio Ghibli and they came over to work with me on this movie. And then for this sequel, kind of this new movie that we made, a bunch of people saw the first one and thought it was good. And so they wanted to work on this one with me. So he was like, I don't know. I don't really do anything.
So now he's got the best animators. Basically.
Right. It's like, I have no skill. I've done nothing. The movies just sort of happened and they're amazing, which is a hilarious thing to hear a person say. But again, very, very Japanese. It's like, no, dude, it's because you're good at this and the team is good and you made anyway, never mind.
Yeah.
But it was really good. And the weather animation in it, especially, like he goes into great detail talking about how hard it is to animate rain and how long it takes. There's a scene in the movie.
Slits. Yeah.
Yeah, right. There's a scene in the movie where there's multiple layers of rain, where there's a character who's laying on the ground and there's puddles around him and there's rain going into the puddles and there's rain hitting his face and like coming down his face. So pooling like in his eyes and stuff, and on the character that's near him. And like all of this stuff is animated individually and it looks amazing, but yeah, it looks like it took about 1 million years to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really good. It was a good movie.
Was this the dubbed version of the movie, I would assume?
No.
It was in
there's a
it was
theater.
in Japanese.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There's a
cool.
theater in Vancouver that does occasionally show. It's like the only theater around here that shows.
Yeah, we don't have some like
anime.
that in St. Louis.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's in the theater is in this kind of like mall thing called International Village, and that theater is the theater that plays like non-main studio, like non-North American movies.
Oh.
So you can watch anime releases. They do a lot of like Bollywood movies and Korean cinema there. But I saw it one day. Like I had finished a stream and I was like, I kind of want to go see a movie, but I've seen everything that's out. And then I asked Twitter, I was like, hey, anime Twitter, should I go see this? Is this going to be good? And they're like, yes.
Yeah, everyone said it was really good. Apparently,
Twitter was right.
Allison Brie does like the voice casting of the dubbed version of that movie is apparently really good. Like Allison Brie's in there. There's like 3 or 4 other pretty famous actors or actresses.
I think to the production company whose name escapes me, but to their point, like with Studio Ghibli doing like less direct kind of film stuff, all of the animators in Japan that don't want to do a TV show or like a direct to animate, like in a direct series like that want to do movies, he's kind of filled that gap. Like it seems like every couple of years, like a big movie that is by default translated into English and brought over for theaters. But I think it's pretty rare unless you live in a like real big town. Like if you live in New York and LA, I'm sure there's lots of places to go see anime in the theater, but it seems even here it's pretty rare. I think we get maybe like 2 or 3 of them a year, and most of the time it's just like Studio Ghibli Film Festival. Come and watch Princess Mononoke on the big screen, which is cool if you've never done it. But like there are other Japanese movies out there. Yeah,
but
yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah, I want to see that, but I think it just came out in Japan in like last month on like the 24th or 25th. So it's gonna be a while before it makes it to the Blu-rays, probably in the fall, I guess is when I'll have to see that. So
yeah, I imagine it'll be a little while. But on the plus side, then you'll have both versions of it, right? And you'll be able to decide which one you want to watch.
That's true.
I don't know. I'm not as vehement about the like subs versus dubs thing. I tend to prefer subs myself, but if the dubs are good quality, like the dub of Princess Mononoke is actually pretty solid.
Yeah.
Right. Like
it's got some pretty good voice actors.
Good. Yeah.
It's not bad.
Yeah, what's really fun is using the subtitles from the subs version and watching the dubbed version and seeing how they don't match up.
How they don't match up, yeah.
Because it's like they're like two different movies, right? Where you're like, oh, cool, I see this script. This is the one we can get away with because the lips don't have to match. And then you see the hard choices they had to make where they're like, yeah, it's not exactly the same words, but like there's mouth movement that we need to try to like attach it to.
Yeah.
And so there's almost like 3 different versions of the movie. There's the Japanese version with no subtitles and then the sub and the dub version.
Right.
And you kind of have to make choices throughout, which is kind of neat. Sort of like that. But it makes me wish that my Japanese was better so that I could just watch movies like that in Japanese and not have to worry about somebody else translating them.
That makes sense. I started watching The Americans last night for the 3rd time. I'm hoping I can actually get through the first season because I've been told that show's really good.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the first season's like it feels like, and this is a weird thing to say, but it feels like I'm watching TV from like 2010 or 2011. It's very much of that like they're doing sex scenes on cable TV because it's like edgy and crazy and stuff, but now on like Netflix and HBO it's just like we don't fucking care. Here's a full-fledged sex scene. Who cares?
It's funny. It's analogous to, and I don't know why. I think I was reading an article about gymnastics, and I can't remember why. It just came across my feed. But yeah, right. Like, but if you watch a gymnastics routine, an Olympic gymnastics routine from like the 60s, they're pretty. I don't want to say they're dull because I'm not, a gymnast or whatever. But it's like they do a run, they do a jump, they do some flips, they do the pommel horse. Maybe they do some rings, whatever they're done. Yeah. And then you compare it to like the most recent Olympics where there's gymnastics, and it's just like
insane. Yeah,
you're like jumping 40 feet in the air and doing fucking kung fu stuff. And I feel like HBO is like that too, where 10 years ago they're like, hey, a boob, check it out, they're having sex, but like we're gonna pan away. Whereas now, if you want to be considered even remotely edgy, you gotta hang dong in the first episode. You gotta be like, check it out, it's a penis. In the first, now we're setting the tone.
Around.
Even early Game of Thrones felt like that, where they were just like, look at murder, boobs, murder boobs. You get all of it. And you're like, okay,
That's true.
All right, HBO.
You got to set the tone. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
I've heard nothing but good things about the show. But we'll see. I have to pay attention to it because I haven't seen it yet. And so I've been watching a lot of West Wing where I don't have to pay attention to it because I've seen it 4 times. So I can just kind of like let an episode play and it's like, oh yeah, that's the episode where this happens. Let's move on to the next one tomorrow.
It's so interesting that we live in a time where that's possible. Like, you know, when they're writing this stuff, like I was thinking about this with Mad Men, because like with Mad Men, if you played me the first 10 minutes of an episode, I could probably tell you what happens in the rest of the episode because I've seen it enough times.
Yeah.
And it's like, I wonder what it's like writing a show like that, where you're like, people are going to see this for the first time after having never seen it before, right? And it's got to fit into the larger season, what we're trying to do with the show. But also there's going to be a subset of that audience who it's just like a comfort watch, and like what stuff sticks out when you're watching it, like while you're doing other stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you know, you got to think like binge watching is a relative like new thing in the way that we consume media. And so I wonder if writers think about that. TV writers, especially people writing on Netflix, do you think about the fact that somebody will be watching this for the 8th or 10th or 15th time down the line? And does that affect how you think about it? I imagine it'd be in the back of my head for sure.
I think they just try to get a cliffhanger. So it's like, well, got to let this autoplay through the credits. Let's see what happens to this character. Oh, okay. They died. Guess I can go to sleep now. And then you just turn it off like 20 minutes into the new episode. And then that's how the episode ends. Like you don't watch episodes now for just the episode. You watch for the episode and then the 20 minutes of the first episode, or sorry, of the next episode. And then, that's just how it goes.
Right. And then the things like wondering where the attention span is. And like, I don't know, that's the kind of market research I imagine that people throw a lot of money at. It's like, how do people watch TV, and like, how do they watch Netflix, and how does that shift?
Well, that's all probably just data driven, right? Like it's not even,
totally.
Yeah, it's not even watch people. It's just watch the data now, because that's all Netflix and those shows collect is just your data to see what you're watching, when you're watching, and how much you're watching. It's how it goes.
I started in on season 2 of Westworld because I'm rewatching it. To get caught up again before 3, and that point just came up in the season where they're like, let's talk about what the park is really for. And you're like, oh God.
Yeah.
I forgot how fast it gets like weird and like different. Meta? Like the first one is like, hey, it's the Wild West, but they're robots. Robot uprising. Very, very basic kind of premise. And then season 2 is like, here's all kinds of weird other stuff. That show you thought you were going to watch the sequel to, it's a different show now. It's like completely in another direction.
Yeah.
Which I think it's cool. I think it's cool that they're like, yeah, don't worry about it. We're going to do a different thing and maybe totally alienate you if you showed up to watch Cowboys.
Yeah. Season 3 looks good though. I haven't watched the trailer yet. I'm trying to decide if I want to, only because I know a little bit about what season 3 is going to look like from previous trailers, but the one that they just put out apparently is somewhat spoilery or somewhat a little bit too showy. So I don't know if I'm going to watch it.
Yeah, I think I'm going to wait until I finish season 2 before I watch the trailer.
Oh yeah, it'll flat out spoils a shit ton of stuff for season 2.
Because I remember watching season 2. I wonder, it feels to me like this whole thing with like, because I'm thinking about True Detective, this whole thing where it's like season 1, amazing, revolutionary, like life-changing TV. Season 2, Season 3, like we're gonna try again.
Season 3 was pretty good.
You know, season 3 of True Detective was pretty good, yeah. But it didn't feel to me like. But again, that's hard, right? Like bands have been struggling with that forever. Where it's like you have your whole life to do your first album, and then it's like, well, you got to put out another one. But the longer you wait, the less your first album matters to anybody.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes people rush to. It's like the first expansion on a board game that blows up. You see this happen all the time, where it's like. They made a good board game that took them years to make, and then they made millions of dollars on the Kickstarter, and they're like, fuck, we got to kickstart an expansion as soon as possible before people stop caring about it. But then that expansion's not very good because it's like, well, you only took like 8 months to make it. So you really got to give it that time to design something. But then by the time people might be like, season 1 was like 3 or 4 years ago, and we don't really care anymore. So sorry.
That's the business, I guess. Should we start playing? We don't have a recap to run. So this is a little bit, this is unfounded territory in the role play world. 7 years, and we've never done a 2-person show before, let alone a 2-person D&D show. But it made sense with kind of where we're at in the story to not force Adam / 3 players for the other 3 players for the last episode to kind of like sit around and wait for me to do my nonsense. And we didn't have a one shot for this month, so that's why we're here. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
But like Adam said at the beginning of last episode, and I think we talked about it more in the post show as well, for the patrons out there that haven't watched it yet. One-on-one one-shots are pretty intense, and there's like, if there's a production thing, I can't really do it because Adam's going to be like, hey, what are you doing?
What are you going to do?
What are you fucking doing? We don't have Zeke
for
to like
me, it's
sit there and talk a lot, or Dan to like make some conversations, or Max to fumble rolls. It's just me.
I was about to make exactly the same analogy, but for DMing, where I'm like, I got to throw together an encounter real quick. Let me just lure Zeke into talking for a long time, and then I'll do it.
Yeah, we need Zeke to have
Zeke, this NPC says something funny to you. What do you do? Okay, now while he's doing that, I'm going to go ahead and just make these notes. So
yeah, that's how it goes.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're just going to kind of roll with this. We'll see how the episode progresses. I think we're kind of scheduled for 3-ish hours. If we go a little bit over, my schedule's open. I think Adam's schedule is open. Yeah. So we'll go as long as time is needed to kind of get me out of hell, out of dwarf jail, or at least on the path, whatever it looks like.
Yeah. So we'll figure it out. I've got a pretty flexible kind of structure for this. And we have some stuff that we want to do within the episode. It's interesting that we're sort of treating it as a frame for some other things that we want to accomplish for Maharib in the game. I think it'll be cool. But yeah, like you said, it's not something we've done before. So yeah, I guess we might as well just roll right into it. Hey.
Yeah. Where do you want to begin, like right when they teleport away?
I think we should. Yeah. Like, I think probably what would happen here would be this episode would air and the recap would be like, instead of previously on Far Verona, it'd be like, meanwhile on Far Verona or whatever, meanwhile on Court of Swords, and we fade out and we don't see, we just cut right back, right? So it's like, instead of seeing, we don't get a recap of all of the stuff that they were doing. We don't see the business that happened in 140A. Instead, we just jump right in on the sort of whirlwind of magic, whatever the visual effects from the outside, because we saw that spell that Ramus cast to pick everybody up and teleport them away. We saw it from the inside, right? We saw the room fade. We saw it sort of swirl around them and carry them away. But from the outside, we see now from the dwarves' perspective as they kind of like shoulder the door open, bash that door open, and a group of these armored dwarves come hustling in to see what's happened because of the psychic backlash of the death of their lawkeeper. And as they rush forward, we see from the outside that column of swirling light. We see the figures within. And the tease here would be like, for the dwarves, they got away, right? So we see them start to fade, like Star Trek teleporter style, and the light fades. And when the dwarves are able to see again in the dim cavern, we see there is a single figure still remaining, right? So we see Maharib. Now, Maharib, when everybody leaves, because you knew, right? This wasn't a surprise for you. As the spell was cast, you chose to stay behind. What's the look on your face? Are you like ready to fight? You don't have your weapon. Are you like drawing a backup weapon and getting ready to fight? Or do you have your hands up like you're surrendering? What do we see when we see Maharib, when that swirl kind of fades away?
I think when maybe it's like a close up on my face and my eyes are closed, and like right as the spell's getting ready to go off. Cause we had to like hold everyone's hand in like a circle or something, right? There had to be some sort of touch connection between like everyone for the port. Okay, then maybe my hands are probably at my side as if I was holding whoever's hands. And probably the last thing to come out of my mouth before the spell ends, or maybe without even knowing if it got through or anything, Maharib just says to himself, or says to the group, keep them safe, Berg. And then my eyes just open, and I'm sure there's just a ton of dwarves around me.
Yeah.
So I've got shield in one hand, and I like go to reach for a weapon and realize it's not there. So I'm just kind of like some doom falls over my face as that happens.
Yeah, so the dwarves, they have these big, so they're like dwarven citadel guards. So I was gonna say they're all short, but like they're dwarves, so of course they are. But they come up to kind of rib cage height on you, maybe a little lower. They are short and broad and stacked with armor. They have these big shields, big metal shields in front of them, and then they have spears out in front of those shields. And they come hustling in perfect formation and kind of line up around you. Behind you is the throne and the dead body of the lawkeeper. He's bleeding from a wound in his neck.
Yeah.
And the dead homunculi kind of laying scattered behind you. And then you're on a platform that extends out over a massive chasm. And then beyond that, the bronze panels that make up the walls. And then they're blocking the way forward. And so they all slam their shields down, point the spears at you, and you hear shouting in Dwarven, right? You hear them shouting at you. And I think that, Maharib, you've been shouted at like this once or twice before.
Yeah.
You can't understand anything they're saying, but the tone is demanding surrender, right? And getting like shouting at you to throw your hands up or cast aside your weapons or lay down or whatever. They want you to capitulate. What do you do?
How wide is the bridge or whatever that I'm on over this chasm?
Yeah, so if we
is it enough to support just me, or it's not necessarily like what does it look like? It's just like if I walk backwards, will it like stack them on the bridge? Is what I'm asking. They're
already kind of on the bridge as it is, right? So that's where they're blocking your only escape aside from jumping off the edge of this thing and down into the darkness.
Right. Okay.
So they've all come there. The walls are out here somewhere, and this is all pit around.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah, and so these dwarves are there.
Also, Adam, that's a great. That's your first penis drawing ever.
Thank you.
In D&D, good job. I'm proud of you.
Yeah, you see the dwarven, and then the dwarves came from this other area down here.
Jesus,
the staging grounds.
That gets people banned, Adam. People have been banned for less. Good Lord.
Yep.
All right. Well, seeing that I'm kind of screwed.
I mean, you could try to escape, but it wouldn't make any difference.
Yeah.
So yeah, they come charging here, and they block this escape path from you. What do you do?
Well, there's not. I guess I throw down my shield. I'll throw my shield down to the left, and I put my hands like behind my head like this, and kneel down in like the full on surrender position. And even though I think Maharib knows that none of them. I think I know that none of them probably speak Dwarven. Maharib doesn't, so I'm just like I'm not your enemy. And just making sure that they're not about to like execute me, so I have to grab one of the weapons or something.
Yeah, so you put your hands back and you say that, and whether they understand you or not, nobody responds. None of them respond, and in fact, you can't even like you can't even see their faces, right? Because they have these metal masks in front of them, and so you might as well be surrounded by constructs in as much as they respond. So they approach. One of them on the periphery like kicks your shield out of the way, and it slides off the edge of the path and fall. And as they get within spear range, I think that they start to close in, and they're talking to each other again in Dwarven. We get no subtitles. You're kind of looking back and forth. They haven't lowered their spear. Nobody's moving forward to apprehend you yet. And as they get within kind of stabbing range, one of them snarls something in Dwarven and stabs you with his spear. And you don't have time to get your hands down to block it or anything. The spear stabs you in the side. There's a sudden pain. You feel a jolt kind of course through you, and there is a flash of like magical energy like expending. And when that one does, another one like lunges in, and he stabs you as well. And what we see is Maharib, like, if you want to try to fight back, you're welcome to, but they basically are closing in on you and just like stabbing you with these spears to try to incapacitate you. Yeah. They're basically like, and you can feel your body like tensing up, your muscles spasming as they stab you. Yeah, and the whole room is just like lit up. All your pain receptors suddenly firing at once.
Are they, I don't know if I can tell this while I'm in immense pain. Are they metal spears, or does it look like I can, use my wrist to like chop down on some of them and break them from stabbing me? Maybe I just do that inherently and I don't actually look to see.
Right. I mean, you don't even think about it.
Yeah, I'm trying to like break the spears where the tip basically connects to whatever the actual pole is.
Sure. Yeah. And they're less like just like long pieces of metal or a long piece of wood with metal on the end. They're slightly halberd like they have a slight kind of curve to a blade at the end. But you thrust out and snap one off. That dwarf staggers back and another rushes forward to take their place. And you're resisting. You're like fighting them off. To them, basically, they're like, "Oh, okay, you're gonna resist arrest, sure." And they all kind of like rush forward. And what we see is the camera pan back as Maharib kind of falls forward, just being stabbed over and over by these spears. And for you, Maharib, this moment passes pretty quickly because it's sudden pain, lots of stabbing, and then darkness. Right, so we see Maharib fall into unconsciousness.
Right.
And for all our talk, that's the one shot. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Great.
Maharib is dead. The end.
Fantastic.
So you fall into darkness and we fall with you, right? The camera stays with Maharib, fades to black. And that darkness holds there for a minute, right? To kind of give the impression of like, maybe Maharib is dead. And then we hear a voice, gravelly and at a great distance, echoing slightly. And because we as an audience don't speak giant, we get subtitles that kind of slowly fade in along with the voice. And we hear the voice saying, Hey, wake up. Come on, brother, wake up. Wake up now. And I think that Maharib, for a moment, you have kind of the like Luke on Hoth thing where you see first you see mountains around you, right? As you wake up, you see the gray cliffs of mountains, the steel gray sky. We see other Goliaths kind of moving around in the background. We see a Goliath woman holding a baby and walk by. We see a couple of Goliaths, an older one teaching a younger one how to attach the head to a pole to make a spear. And for a moment, we see another Goliath that kind of looks like Maharib saying, wake up, hey. But all of that fades as reality takes over. And Maharib, with a pounding headache and deep pain in your entire body, you slowly start to wake up in this dark chamber. What does that look like? Does Maharib like leap to his feet? Do you slowly kind of like sit up? You're basically laying face down on the stone.
I mean, I think I just got stabbed a shit ton, so I don't know if I have the strength to like leap up to my feet and scan the perimeter. So it's most likely me grabbing, like I'm just putting my hand out. What happens if I just put my hand out in front of me? Am I grabbing like the edge of a prison? Am I grabbing a wall? What am I grabbing?
So all you can feel at the edge of your reach is stone floor.
There's no like
so
perimeter.
You reach out and you feel like
that I can feel
damp stone all around you. Yeah, there's no wall anywhere that you can feel. And then you hear again, distant through your pain, you hear that voice, and it says again in giant, you're still alive. Good. Come on, get up then.
Where am I? What? Why are you? And maybe I try to open my eyes like fully. Am I getting an idea of where I'm at?
Yeah, and your vision's like blurry from the pain, but your dark vision starts to settle in, and and you see around you, you're in a cavern. Maybe like, I guess it's a stone box, maybe 30 feet to a side, right? So 30 by 30 by 30, like a stone cube, pretty big. You're in the middle of it. You're not restrained in any way, right? You don't have like shackles on. You've been stripped of your armor and your belongings. So you realize that you're wearing like a loincloth, basically. And yeah, your whole body hurts, mainly from stab wounds to your torso, to your like ribs, one in your neck. Yeah. You're laying in a pool of your own congealed blood and then some filthy water of some kind. And it feels like if you touch the wounds, they're all still fresh and nobody has bandaged you up. You feel like you pull your hand away and there's blood, probably from your movement reopening those wounds.
Yeah.
You have 1 hit point from a mechanical perspective. You get 1 hit point.
Yeah.
And you've just woken up from being knocked unconscious. Everything's a little bit blurry.
You said there's crude water on the ground?
Yeah. The floor isn't perfectly flat and you're laying in a little bit of a depression in some water. And there you hear a drip. And as you kind of sit up and look around, you hear that same voice mutter to himself, but it's almost like he's speaking to someone else. You hear, look at his eyes. He can see. Hey, brother, over here. And you kind of look in that direction. Yeah. Your dark vision's pretty good, right? It's like 60 feet. So you can see everywhere around you. Yeah,
60 feet. Yeah.
Okay. So you see a figure dressed similarly to you. And in fact, there's almost a moment of like, kind of, it's sort of surreal because I think, and I don't know, like with the being electrocuted by dwarven taser spears and then being thrown into prison and almost dying and loss of blood. Can you make a wisdom save for me?
Oh, I'm real good at these, Adam.
Yeah.
By the way, I leveled up.
I just want to see how together
last
you
session
are,
and this. I leveled up to 16. I took the +1 to 2 stats, put 1 in wisdom, so I'm now at a 0 modifier, and 1 in charisma, so I'm now at a -1 modifier. Nice. Wisdom check, you said?
Yes, please. Yeah, wisdom save.
7. Great. Rolled
okay.
a 2.
So
oh, it didn't, oh, there it
for
is.
this next bit, consider Maharib as being a little bit untethered from reality. You've got a little bit of like, not a concussion, but you're a little confused. So what you see could be a ghost. Maybe at first you think it's Berg or like another Goliath that you recognize, but you see this person, he's got his arms folded and he's leaned up against the wall at the edge of this cell that the two of you are sharing. He's got a loincloth and that's he's got it like wrapped around his waist and a loincloth to cover his shame. He has gray skin, though it's much paler than yours. And he's covered in tattoos. And at first, you notice that there are some traditional Goliath
markings,
like tribal markings. Yeah, but then on top of that, and like newer, there are a lot more like you recognize some tattoos that probably came from the Court of Cups. Like you see some sailors' tattoos. You see a handful of like prison markings because you've worked with prisoners before, so you see some prison tattoos, like some gang tattoos on them, and it looks like this person has used their body as a record of like places they've been and things they've done. There's probably a bunch of meaning to that, but under all of it, you see the like coming of age tattoos, you see the tribal markings and stuff. And if you got a closer look at this person, maybe when your head didn't hurt so bad, you could get an idea of like what tribe he belongs to and all of that.
Okay.
He is old, like considerably older than you. He has a long old prisoner beard, right? Long white beard. And he's bald and he's looking at you like he's not sure if you're going to make it or not. And so he's kind of just leaned against the wall and he's like, you can see. Interesting. Well, what do you think? Are you going to make it?
I need water. Maybe I like dip my hand in the crude water and realize it's just like
you're just like
mess
and
muck.
Yeah, and he says, no. I know you're thirsty, but that's not going to make it any better. And he points up, and you look, and there's like a crack in the ceiling where the water is dripping from. And he says, I don't know what's up there. But when I was in your position, I tried that same thing. I was sick for days.
So, are they feeding you?
He grins and he says, at first they were. I'm sure they'll bring you something to eat. They don't want you starving to death down here.
Great. How long have I been here?
Living down here in the darkness, time is confused. I don't know. You've been in here with me not so long, I think.
Where are you from? You speak giant. I don't understand.
There's plenty you don't understand. You might come to learn one thing at a time, or maybe you'll die down here. These things are unclear.
You seem quite sure of yourself for a prisoner.
I've been a prisoner in here longer than I've been anything else. So it makes sense.
While he's saying that, I'm starting to try to take note of my wounds. Do I just have like a ton of stab wounds up and down my entire body?
Yeah, you've been you've been stabbed a bunch of times. And to the point where you're kind of impressed that you're even alive. Like it hurts, but it's clear that maybe you could have died, but someone prevented you from passing. But yeah, you feel dizzy and weak, and you're paler than usual, feeling pretty anemic. You lost a lot of blood.
Okay. I think I try to start doing what Maharib would do. He's a soldier. He'd start asking how many guards are there? The rotation. What? How frequent?
He shrugs. They don't come down here much anymore. I think they're trying to forget about me. But you, well, I'm sure they'll come and visit you. Did they sentence you first, or are we still waiting for that?
I think these wounds are part of that. They believe I killed one of their law seekers, whatever.
Oh, one of the triad is dead. So you're an assassin then?
No,
not a very good one.
It was not our fault, but I don't speak Dwarven, and they will not see that, I'm sure.
I promise you, even if you did, killing someone as important as the Lawbringer and then saying, oh, I didn't mean to, it was an accident, not a very good legal defense.
My thoughts, exactly. I think I'd try to prop myself up against the wall at this point.
Yeah, he watches you, but doesn't help. He watches you struggle a little.
Yeah, I think as he's doing that, and I finally get myself up on the wall, I'm just like, thanks for the help.
He shakes his head. You learn to help yourself in places like this. I haven't decided. And he mutters something. You don't hear it, but he mutters something as if, again, talking to somebody else that's not here. And he says, so if you're not an assassin and you just happen to kill the Lawbringer by mistake, well, what were you doing here, accidental killer?
It's a long story, but we were trying to find someone in these woods that had a lead that the dwarves would help us. It's not good out there. I don't know how long you've been here.
He starts laughing when you say that. And it starts as a chuckle and then becomes a full on Coming to the dwarves for help.
It almost worked.
Thank you. Oh, why? Help for what purpose?
We needed to find someone. Why am I telling you these things?
He looks around and he says, "Oh, I didn't realize you were in a big hurry to get somewhere. No, please. If you have to go ahead." And he gestures, and you look around and realize there's no windows, but there's also no door. You're just in a stone box. The only other thing in the room is a puddle of bloody water, a crack in the ceiling, and this guy.
Huh. Okay. Well, I'm going to try to use these 2-second wins that I have left to heal up a little bit. So it's a D10 plus 16, and I'll use both of them just to see what happens. 20 and 24. So 44.
Okay.
45 HP total.
So what does this look like when you second wind? What would this guy see?
I think I close my eyes, and it to him it just looks like I'm in like pretty deep thought.
Yeah.
But I think internally it's me. And we haven't really gone into it too much. I'm probably like, there's some mantra that's being repeated within myself. And it's how we learn to kind of like stave off the pain. And if you stave off enough of the pain or forget enough of the pain, that it eventually just goes away. And you kind of forget that it's there. And then by doing so, you are
it's
brought
like
back some sort of life.
Yeah, it's like the litany against fear, but it's a litany against pain. So you're just like, this pain that I'm feeling is false. It is a signal of the body, not and I can ignore it as I choose.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. All right. So yeah, for you, it's about like ignoring it and trying to push through it. And the bearded guy, he says, while you're in the middle of it, he's like, "What are you doing?"
I don't say anything. If I stop the mantra, I know it won't work.
Yeah. And so you finish, and he's watching you, and you open your eyes. You see him staring at you, and he says, "What was that?"
It helps to forget about some of the pain. I think I start to like stand up and maybe like see if I can keep myself upright.
Yeah. So the second wind helps, right? So you're able to stand, and he looks at you and he says, "So what? You just ignore it and keep fighting then?"
Something like that. Yes. I can try and teach you. I don't know if it'll work.
He shakes his head. "Oh, no. I'm done with warriors' tricks. Not for me."
Do you have a name?
And he nods, and he stands up from the wall, and he kind of stretches. And he puts his hands together, and he bows deeply to you from the waist, and he says, "I have had many names, but you can call me Hashim. It's what my mother called me. And you are one of," and he says like the word, the Goliath word, the giant word for like the people. Like we are the same, right?
Right.
He says, "You may call me by my family name. I'm Hashim."
I think I put my hand out only because that's just how I've come to introduce myself at all times to people that I consider an ally. As a gesture of like, we're meeting for the first time, I'll put my hand out and say, "You may call me Maharib."
He looks at your hand, and then he looks at you, and he says, "You know why we do that? The grasping and shaking. It's so that if one of us is keeping a knife up our sleeves, it will fall out. No secret weapons, but as you can see," and he gestures around like you're both almost naked, "neither of us have anything to hide."
It's a good story.
And he he puts his arms out like, come, brother, like embrace me as like he wants you to come in and like, hug him, right?
Fine.
As like, brother to brother members of the tribe, or so you come in. When you do, can you make an acrobatics check for me?
Yeah, it's just a flat 0 for me. Okay. 18, not bad though.
Not bad. Okay. Let's see. You might still be able to get him. Hey, you can. Okay. So I think when you come in, he tries when you get into the embrace, he tries to like turn it and like flip you. Like you feel his leg snap behind your knee as he tries to like throw you on the ground. Do you want to try to like turn it around on him, or do you want to just try to like roll out of it? What do you think? You have the opportunity. You can either like tuck and roll and show that you can kind of come out of the grapple, or you could try to counter it and like grapple him as well.
I think I just want to be done with it, so I'm tuck and rolling out of it. Like it's more a reactionary, like what the fuck, and not I'm gonna take you down for this.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so he grabs you and tries to like roll you, but you manage to take the energy of it and roll and like end up behind him, and he turns around facing you, and he's grinning and he says, good. I thought there might be something to you. Those dwarves didn't kill you. You lived, and that's good. Something to start with. You see him grin, and he mutters again, as if to someone who's not there, and he says, "The next thing will be sentencing. I hope you don't hold that against me." And he gestures like that thing I just tried to do. I needed to learn the measure of something.
What the fuck are you doing? We're in a prison, and you're fighting me?
Not fighting. Teaching. I have an idea. And he looks at you, and he says, You're a warrior. I can see that. I imagine with sword or spear, you would be deadly on the battlefield. But we have a shared problem, you and I. You think you need a weapon to fight. I know I need no weapon, but my hands, they're tied. And he turns and he shows you on his back, right where his shoulders meet his neck, like at the top, he has this horrible brand, this like burn mark the size of a small like dinner plate, in the shape of a dwarven rune that you can't read. But he has it burned horribly into his back, like deep enough that the brand probably like burned the bone of his spine. And he points at it and he says, without this, I'm certain that I could kill my way out of here with just my bare hands. There was a time I feared no armed foe, but this brand, it means I can't fight. Even if I wanted to. And he looks at his hands, and he shakes his head. They think you've been disarmed. You probably think it too. But maybe you and I can help each other. What did you say your name was?
You're not making sense. What do you fight your way out of here?
Tell me your name, boy.
It's Maharib.
He nods. What does Maharib mean in like if you literally translate?
It means warrior.
Yeah, right. He laughs and he says, "Good. Good. Maybe there is some justice in the world after all." And he sighs. And he says, I have to prepare some things. Get some rest. They'll come back soon and sentence you. And he turns around and he walks over to the corner of the room and he sits down cross-legged and he just stares into the corner and is just like mumbling to himself and like tugging on his beard and like talking, so chewing on his fingernails.
I think I'm looking around thinking like, what the fuck is what just happened?
You're
like,
right.
This guy's insane. I think maybe like an amount of time passes, 5 or 10 seconds, and you just fine. What else do we have to do? I don't know who you're talking to or why you're staring at the wall, but I'll be over here when you feel like coming back to reality.
Yeah, he just keeps like his weird mumbling conversation with himself or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do want to kind of do a check of this room. You said it was just kind of a caved out box or a hollowed out box within a rock structure. Is there anything that I can figure out from like a perception check, or is that all it is? Is there anything else?
You can make an investigation check.
Okay. Crit.
Ha damn. I will tell you everything there is to know about this box. It's a box. You're in a stone box. Like I said, 30 by 30. Like it's the surface is not smooth, right? It's not like a mirror polish or anything. So it's like a rough hewn box, but it's exactly the same length as it is wide. And you would guess at a glance that you can't measure by walking. It looks like it's the same distance to the ceiling. So you're in a cube. There is a crack in the ceiling, about 2 feet long, maybe about an inch thick at its widest point, from which occasionally you hear a drop of water as water drips through. There's some source of fluid above you. There's no like entrance or exit, no seams on any of the walls. Yeah.
Okay.
There's an old man in one corner talking to himself.
I have a thing that I've never used before called Mountain Born. Doesn't necessarily apply to this in the sense that we're not in the mountains, but can I have any idea of like how far down we are if I'm acclimated to high altitude? Is there anything as like being super low altitude? I don't know enough about science.
Right. I think the only way you'd be able to guess that is like inner ear pressure.
Okay.
Like,
sure. Right. And I probably can't feel too much apart from the wounds on my body.
Yeah, I think all you can tell is that you're underground, probably. But then again, you could be like tapping on the wall. There's no echo, so it's either a very thick box. Like you could theoretically be in a very thick stone box sitting outside, like on the surface.
Yeah.
But if you had to assume, chances are pretty good. Dwarven prison, you're probably underground.
Yeah. This tear that's in the ceiling where water occasionally drips down. How tall was this box? If I'm 8 feet, It's 30 feet. So even the two of you standing on each other's shoulder, you wouldn't be able to reach. You look all the way up and you can see this crack in it dripping into the puddle. Okay. Gotcha. So yeah, we pull back in from my like Sherlock Holmes moment of getting a crit on investigation.
Yep.
Yeah, and there's not much else to do. So I think I'd find the softest floor, the best corner, and sit down and kind of just like tilt my head back.
Okay.
And wait for sentencing to see if this guy's correct.
Yeah. So you awaken. This is great. So you go to sleep. You get a short rest. So if you want to spend hit dice, you're welcome to.
Sure. Yeah, I'll make those rolls while you're.
So yeah,
talking.
you lie down, fold your hands behind your head, and close your eyes. Try to like ignore the pain, the throbbing of your body, and you wake up later to the feeling of dwarven boots kicking you in the ribs, and not hard, not like they want you to die, but like wake up kicks from guards, and muffled shouting in dwarven, right? 3 or 4 voices. Yeah, for some reason your hit dice are D4s.
Oh, really? Oh, that is D4. Yeah, what the hell?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll adjust accordingly. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's okay. So you're being awakened, and these dwarves are like shouting at you. So you wake up and you look up and you see these scary dwarven masks hovering over you, and you're getting kicked and shaken. You wake up. There you go. That's better.
Yeah.
What do you what do you do?
I think I just kind of like taking it. They're not like they're just kicking me, right? They're not like poking me with the sword or like stabbing me or anything like that, right?
I mean, it sucks. They're kicking you in your ribs that have been stabbed. And they're shouting at you and like, yeah.
Okay. I just, what? Stop.
And then you hear the old man's voice in Giant. He says, they want to know why you killed their lawkeeper.
Are you saying you speak Dwarven? Stop. And I think I swat like one of the feet down.
And so you try to defend yourself, and then another dwarf grabs your wrist, and then one punches you in the face.
Great.
Like, they're not hitting you hard, but it's like enough that it stings.
Yeah.
And he says, oh, you're just making them mad. You better answer.
I think I'm just like continuing to getting ahead, like getting more and more upset. Like, is there a way I can fight back against this, or is there just too many of them? Is the barrage of kicks too much?
Mean, like, this is the thing, is like you envision a situation, because like you said, you're a fighter. You do the Sherlock Holmes thing where you're like, you envision a situation where, okay, let's play it out. So they're fighting you. Maybe you knock one out. You steal a spear. You kill one of them. There's no door. So how do you get out of here? Like, there's no thread. And you're trying to think of this while you're being pummeled.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Kicked and punched. And the other Goliath, again, like, you can hear in his voice that he's just like, he's like, you better answer quick.
And what was the original question? What did he say they asked?
He said they want to know why you killed the lawkeeper.
I did not kill him. Tell them that.
Don't tell me. I don't care what you did or didn't do. Tell them.
Are we both speaking in Goliath still?
Yeah, you're speaking Goliath to him. He always speaks Goliath to you.
I'll swap to comment and say, like, I did not kill him, and see if they respond.
And the Goliath, they continue shouting at you, and the Goliath chuckles and he says, that's a shame. They don't speak the common tongue. You'll have to try in Dwarven.
I yell at him. I think you hear, what would I say? I think I just say, like, shield your ears. Let's see if he does that at all.
Yeah, we see him make a face, right? Like, and he puts his hands over his ears like, okay.
I'll speak in Infernal. And I'm going to say, like, I did not kill him. And see if anything changes.
Yeah, so he kind of like, he covers his ears, and you say something, and he takes his hands away, and he says, whatever you said, it doesn't seem to have worked.
They're still just continuing to beat the shit out of me.
And then one of them gets frustrated and reaches in and grabs you under the arms and like yanks you to your feet or starts. The others grab your arms. And they try to pull you. They pull you up, and he says, what a shame. It looks like your chance to defend yourself is up. Time to go.
Where are they taking me? I'm saying is like I'm being pushed out of the room or pushed out.
Yeah,
like,
and you get pulled. Yeah, exactly. You get pulled to your feet. You look around. You're like, where do these dwarves come from?
Yeah.
And they start shoving you towards one of the walls. And he says, where are you going? I don't know. I've been in this box too long to remember anything else. Good luck. Better learn Dwarven quick if you can. And they shove you towards one of the walls. And as you get closer to the wall itself, as if the stone were a living thing, opens up in front of you. So it kind of unfolds, and a doorway appears in the stone. And on the other side of the stone, you see maybe 6 or 7 feet ahead of you, with one hand touching his chest and the other hand up in front of him, chanting with green lines kind of swirling around his hands. You see a dwarven priest or wizard or something, and then a couple more guards with the priest. And they shove you forward. And the guards outside grab your wrists and put shackles on you behind your back.
Okay. I don't fight off the shack. Like, I guess I test the shackles?
Yeah, they're they're dwarven shackles, so they're pretty. You're not going to be able to Incredible Hulk them apart or anything.
Them apart. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I look towards the spellcaster. Do you speak common?
He says something in a low and sonorous voice in Dwarven that you don't understand. He looks at you and he nods and says something, not in like affirmative, but in a like, he's looking at you like you're an object. And he looks you up and down and he says something and he turns to another dwarf as if you've never spoken. And he says to the other dwarf something and they nod and they're talking and they're all talking like you're not even here now.
Right. Okay.
So either they don't understand you or they're ignoring you on purpose.
Okay. And I'm just being prodded along towards some path.
Yeah. So I think because Maharib, for this next bit, you don't encounter anyone who speaks common or anyone who will speak to you in common. And what this looks like, the next couple of scenes. Yeah, exactly. You get the impression of something happening, but you get cut off from the actuality of it. So basically you are led by these dwarven guards. You're led somewhere else in the fortress. You are brought before 3 stone chairs, one of which is empty with a black cloth draped over it. Mm-hmm. In the other 2, you see two dwarves, both older, wearing ceremonial garb. You get brought before them. There's another dwarf who has like a staff and long hair and a book, and they're talking. And there's a bunch of other dwarves gathered in like stone, basically bleachers, watching this happen in this chamber. Briefly, you see Erishtum, Aga, the warden, and Adikur, but they have like gags on, basically like silencing masks that are placed on them. You see them brought out. They get talked about in Dwarven. The dwarves say something. Adikur gets like visibly upset and starts to cry. They take those 3 away. They continue talking about you, but not directly to you. And then there is a moment of something being decided. Right? They clearly like decide something. There's the sort of gavel bang like equivalent, right? And then you're dragged away without ever being told what has happened or anything. And you're dragged back through the stone halls and brought to the end of a hallway where that same priest casts the same spell, opens the hallway door, and they shove you inside. And several hours having passed, the door shuts behind you. And inside you see that same
start, can I make an intelligence check to remember the diagram or to like have a mental diagram of the path that I just took, or was I blindfolded?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, because I think I'd be like doing reconnaissance. If I can't understand anything, I could
totally
focus 100%.
Trying to like map the way around.
Is that just an intelligence check?
Survival, I think.
Okay.
I think it's a survival check in this case. Yeah, because it's like trying to navigate, right? Navigation is covered by survival.
Right. That's a better roll for me. Well, it should be 13.
Ooh, yeah, 13. Okay, maybe.
I have
There's a lot of twists and turns, and you've got a general idea. Yeah. Right. But yeah, so you get brought back and thrown into the room, and you see your friend Hashim, and he looks up and he says, "Well, that's step 1. They didn't kill you right away. So if it's not immediate execution, if I had to guess, trial by blood. You didn't happen to learn Dwarven while you were up there, did you?"
I was more focused on the path they took me on rather than the words they were saying. That's hopeless.
And he points as if you've said something important. He says, That's it, isn't it? It's not always about the words we use, but what we mean to say. That's what's deeper. Good.
You've been in here too long.
Have I? I wouldn't know. And he grins and he says, it has been some time. After we do what must be done, Maybe you can tell me about what I've missed.
What must be done?
And he walks up
the dwarves
to you.
left, did they like take off my shackles?
Yes, yeah. They
kick me in
basically
the room?
shoved you in, and then the wall closed
Okay.
behind you.
Gotcha.
So you say, what must be done? And he walks over and he says, well, you need to be trained. It's a waste. And he taps his head. Everything I have up here, stuck down here in a hole in the ground, I can't escape. And he points at his back. The brand has seen to it. They've made a mistake, you see. My sentencing was to die down here of thirst. That was a long time ago. He gestures around. Hunger, thirst, I've made them irrelevant. And in exchange, an eternity of solitude. Or so I thought, until you were delivered to me. I was thinking, while you were upstairs being sentenced, we have an opportunity here, you and I.
We have, sure. What's the opportunity? I'll let you speak, I guess.
And he nods and says, yes. I've never had an apprentice before, but what I remember from my own apprenticeship, this is the way it begins. You have opened your mind to the possibilities of my training. Good. There may be hope for you yet.
You're insane. I have not done anything. I said you could speak. I did not agree to be your apprentice.
And he turns and he says, but you did. You didn't die. Your spirit wants you to be here. I am beginning to think all those stories were true. Things I haven't thought about in. I'm rambling. We should begin. I have something for you. And he goes over to the corner and he comes back, and in his hands he has some fluid. He has like some water in his hands. And he says, while you were upstairs, I prepared this for you. And he holds it out and he says, drink this. It will help with what you are feeling. Pain in your stomach, your body. Here. And he holds it out to you. And you can see it's clear. It's like a clear, it looks just like water.
I'm trying to think. Was Maharib was not present when Ramus made the woman drink his piss, right?
No, I don't think so.
I think that was the turtle. Yeah, I don't think
yes, that was Salihafa, yeah.
Damn. Okay. I mean, does it looks like clean water in his hand?
You can make a nature check.
But it won. Crit fail.
Yep. Sure. Yep.
It looks like water.
Yeah, and you were, like you said, you were thirsty as hell. You haven't drank water in forever, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's maybe why I failed the check, is because I'm so driven by thirst that I'm less about what it is and more interested in just drinking it. So yeah, I like shoot at his hands to drink the water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you drink it, and he's like, good, yes, that's better, isn't it? That's
Where
good.
did you get this from?
And you drink it up.
I like wipe my mouth.
And he says, he just kind of looks around and says, oh, what do you think? And he points at the ceiling.
Is there more? How frequent did it drop? I could lay underneath.
And that's when your stomach starts to hurt, right? As if someone had taken your intestines and just balled them up and tied them into a knot. You feel this horrible, sudden, like piercing pain in your stomach.
I mean, I remember him saying like, don't
drink the ceiling water.
Just driven by the water. Yeah. So you fed me that? Wait, you said not to drink it.
And he grins and he nods at you as he starts to kind of blur in your vision. and separate, and you start to see, you know, multiples. And, you know, I imagine that this scene has some of the kind of like the Willy Wonka going down the tunnel thing happening, where like Maharib is getting very confused about where he is. And so again, you're seeing that kind of overlap, and you're starting to hallucinate basically, and you realize that it's happening to you.
I'm pretty pissed, so I'm trying to punch him. Like I'm trying to physically assault this person.
Yeah, like you lunge at him, and I think he make an attack roll. Make an unarmed attack roll. So is that
just a flat D20 plus my proficiency plus strength? Is that right?
Yeah.
It'd be a D20 plus 10. 25.
Okay, yeah. He doesn't flinch or even try to dodge. Like, you just punch him in the chest. How much damage did you deal?
It would just be a D4 plus my strength, right?
No, I think it's just 1 plus your strength bonus.
Oh, okay. So it'd be 6.
For unarmed attacks, yeah, I think it's just 6. Flat 1.
Yeah.
6. Okay, so you hit him, and he like takes the hit. You know you landed it, and he looks at it, and he looks at you, and he says, "That's good. It's good. You're strong. But you're going to have to learn. It's not about strength." And as he's speaking to you, it's like the pitch is going up and down, and like it's kind of warbling. He's like, good. As he like extends out, there's like 3 or 4 of him. It's not all about strength. Strength. And he's like, it's about where you strike. But first, I have to introduce you to my friend. Friend. And it like warbles, and you feel yourself kind of wobbling. And he's like, he's been waiting to meet you. And he looks behind him. So in Goliath myth, there is a figure, right? There is a figure that acts as a sort of Charon, right? A psychopomp, I believe is the word for it. Someone who comes to take the spirits of the honored dead away from the world of the living and guide them to the world of the ancestors, right? It probably has a bunch of different names, but for your tribe, what shape did that Death Sherpa look like? Like what form does it take?
I think mothers in Goliath culture are more important than most figures, so it probably just resembles your mom.
Oh wow, okay.
So it's like a pretty personal thing of like, your mom is the one that ferries you into the afterlife because she's the one that's already passed. So she's there and knows the path. And
so in Goliath, oh my God. So in Goliath culture, the phrase, I brought you into this world and I can take you right back out of it.
Right. It's very literal.
That carries,
it's very
literal significance. Yeah. Mother as psychopomp. Yeah. So it must be especially fucked up if you die before your mother does.
Right.
That would be a really weird.
That's deemed as dishonorable. You don't actually get like a proper burial because you can't actually be ferried to the next life.
That's right. Because mom can't take you there. But maybe when she finally dies, then you get to go to. That's really interesting. Okay. So he says, I need you to meet my friend, and then you see your mother behind him, dressed in like funeral, whatever the robes or the garb you would wear to a Goliath funeral.
Which
so you see her
doubly fucked
her
up
behind.
Because she's not dead yet.
Yeah.
That I know of. I haven't seen him in a
exactly.
long time.
You haven't seen her in a long time.
Yeah. So I think there like probably tears start to like fill my well up in my eyes. Who are you? You're not dead.
And so you're looking at the spirit behind him, and I think you hear the sound of Hashim slapping you in the face before it happens, to the point where you hear and you're like, oh, what was that sound? Then you realize it's the sound of you getting hit in the face, and you like watch him slap you from outside your own body, which pulls you back into it. And Hashim says, hey, concentrate. That stuff should be doing its business now. And he points where your spirit mom is. He says, you need to focus. One of 2 things is going to happen here, friend. Either you endure and you stay here with me and I teach you a thing or 2 about being a weapon, or, well, I guess you die. That water is very, very bad for you. And if you don't have the ability to turn it into something safe, it's going to take you. And then whatever you're seeing behind me, it's going to carry you on to the other side. I need you to concentrate. Look at me, Maharib.
I have a pretty hard time taking my eyes off of my would-be mother in spirit form behind him. And I think for like the first part of it, it's more focused on her. And how are you alive or dead? What is this?
And he like snaps his fingers and he says, unless you're ready to leave, pay attention to me, listen to my voice.
I think it comes from a place of anger. Like I'm delirious at this point. I'm hallucinating potentially. I'm thinking that this Hashim has killed my mom or something. And so I probably like lash out at him from like I said, a place of anger. And you killed my mother. What are you doing? And I like rush towards him.
Yeah. And so you feel, obviously you got this poison coursing through your veins and you feel like you try to get up and your legs are kind of weak and you like stumble and lash out. And he says, there is a place in the struggle for anger, but this is not it. It doesn't matter how angry you are at death. Death is coming. It has been waiting for you since the moment you were born, waiting to open that last door and usher you through. Are you ready to die, Maharib? Is that what you want? He gestures. If that's what you want, then go. Give up this body. See what awaits you. Is that what you want? And he stares at you like, huh? You're just gonna let yourself die?
He mentions door. Like what happens when I look towards that door? Where death is waiting, or is it more?
Yeah, exactly. No, I think that he's talking figuratively, but what you're seeing, because your brain is all garbled with roof poison. I don't know, what is the threshold between life and death? What does Maharib expect to see? I guess is what's important here. Is it like the video for Bone Thugs and Harmony's Crossroads? Do you see Eazy-E waiting for you? Or is it like something more metaphorical? Is it a doorway? Like, what is Maharib seeing?
I think the first thing that like crosses his mind is he probably sees Amira in some form, whether it's like her body, her living body, her like what I remember her last or my last memory of her form, her physical form. It's probably a little bit too hard to like pinpoint on one thing in particular, but it's just kind of like a flash of Amira. And whether that's a feeling or whether that's an actual physical manifestation through this door, hard to say because I'm pretty fucked up on drugs, on this drug water.
You can't tell the difference between reality and visions.
Yeah. So I think I see like Amira, and then maybe behind that I see like Ramus Berg and maybe even before I see the original the trio, I see Yoda Zoe. Like I see his last the last scene or the feeling of like regret and sadness that I had when he died. And then maybe I see the party there behind them, but they're dead or something like that. It's a little bit hazy in terms of exactly what I see, but I just see a bunch of different forms, get a bunch of different feelings of like regret and anger and the ambivalent feeling of like I could have done more, but I couldn't have done anything else. Like it is what it is. You have to move forward, blah, blah, blah. And then I think maybe he comes back into focus as all of this is like happening, whether he moves himself into my FOV or if I'm shifting over to him. It's a little bit unclear.
It's like he was always there and you were seeing through him, and then he kind of returns and he's watching you, and that like this is the look on his face is like, oh, Maharib is elsewhere dealing with this struggle, and he's watching you, like seeing how you're responding. Can you make a wisdom saving throw?
Sure. 12.
Okay.
Also,
right.
did I get inspiration at the start of this episode?
Is that yes. Okay. Yeah, definitely.
Right. Gotcha.
Okay. So you feel this first kind of like wave of cold pass over you, and you feel that sense of like kind of pulling and whatever, but you're able to center yourself in your own body, and you see him again. You pull him forward and he nods and he says, good, stay here. Focus. You have to learn to let the poison take its course. To pass through. Like that warrior trick you tried. But do not ignore it. Embrace it. Understand it. Feel it. Make the poison part of you. And as he's speaking again, there's that like wobbling like sound to his voice. And he's staring at you and he's got these like just piercing gray eyes. And everything else is kind of getting dark except for him and the sound of his voice. Can you make another wisdom save for me?
Same exact roll, 12.
Okay. All right. Good. So that's 2 down. So he's staring at you and he says to you, and you can feel these kind of like each one of these saves is like a brush with death. It is a time for Maharib to like give up and go. You're feeling the pull of the afterlife. So what is it this time that draws you away from him, right? He's talking to you. He's telling you like, think about these things, focus on this, listen to the sound of my voice. But in between each save, something draws you away, some like lost companion or some grief. What is it this time? What is the thing that kind of pulls your mind away from the focus?
I think it's like the would be scene of that happens in Lord of the Rings where the Shire is being run down by the armies. It's that, but with the tribe. Like I just see my tribe being slaughtered by Gravedirt's army, somewhere in some mountain, just like an undead army.
Yeah,
just going and ransacking an entire tribe.
Yeah, and so he weirdly, it's like Hashim, like he's responding to things that. This is that moment of like, did I think that or say it out loud? Because he's responding to the things that you think you're hallucinating about, right? And so he says to you, he's like, yes, good. Your connections to others make you strong as well. You haven't seen your home in a long time, but you carry it here. And he pokes you in the chest. Inside. All Goliaths. This is important. I called you brother when I met you because it's true. Explanations for another time. Think on your family, on your blood, those you keep close to you. Let them root you here in this life. Make another wisdom save.
I'll make it with inspiration this time.
Okay.
Didn't need it.
Hot
24.
damn. Nice. Okay. All right. So again, the same thing. You feel, I think that whole sequence of like the horrible undead burning and everything, it rewinds and starts again, and it's happening all around you. It rewinds and it starts again. But this time, the Goliaths are like rising up and fighting back against the undead. So you see other warriors with swords and spears, chopping at skeletons and zombies. You see them fighting against the undead. It's not clear that they're like winning, but it's not the massacre that you saw the first time. Give me a thing that pulls Maharib away from that. What is something else that if you died right now that you would regret or like fear not being able to prevent?
I think I have a flash of like one of the biggest current fears of Maharib's life. It's seeing Ramus sitting down in some like grandiose golden seat at the head of some church, and with like thousands in adoration bowing to him, and maybe the seal of harmony that he kind of spoke of around him. And next to his side is kind of a reluctant Berg, who's doing it because he supports his friend, but he doesn't necessarily agree with everything that's happening. And maybe somewhere, kind of off in the distance is a 10 pillars behind like a pylon or something with a smile or a grin. Like it's his
Right.
worst fears come to life, right? Like
I love
the potential
I love the
of what
idea.
could happen without Maharib.
Well, yeah,
there.
you're seeing the God, and it's so good because you're taking the like little bits of kind of reference fiction that I'm giving you, and you're spinning them in exactly the right direction. You've become fucking Paul Muad'Dib here because you're seeing the dark future, right? So
Yeah.
what you envision is, this like Dark Emperor Ramus and his mailed fist, Berg, and then in the shadow, his like, worm tongue, his mentat sneaking around and manipulating things in the background. You're seeing all of this. And again, as if responding to your vision, Hashim says, good, yes, that's right. That fear, it's awakening your memories. You can feel it. And he kneels down, or maybe he does. You didn't realize you were sitting, and he looks you in the eyes, and he says, that need, that resistance, that desire to protect, that comes from a long, long line. There are mysteries, things you do not understand yet. But if you survive this, you will. Hold fast. And he puts his hands on either side of your face, and he leans in and he touches his forehead to yours. I need you to make another wisdom save.
All right. 21.
God damn, man, that's awesome.
Well,
okay, so.
No, I rested. Never mind.
Yeah.
I would say, do I have exhaustion?
No, you don't. No,
Okay.
you had
Right.
you've had a chance to rest. You're fresh. Okay.
Right.
So he places his forehead against yours, and you see what looks like a group of tall. We've seen these creatures before, though never actively. So they're tall. They are like light bluish gray skinned. They have slightly elongated features, right? Like their skulls are kind of longer. They have slightly pointed ears. They have like not quite as extreme as like the Kaminoans from like Attack of the Clones, but like a bit like that in the sense they're kind of stretched out. And you feel a kinship with them, as if you were seeing like a long lost relative. So you see them, and they're all dressed in these like long kind of iridescent robes, and they're talking. And in the center of their conversation, there is what looks like a battle map, basically. So you can see mountains, and it's like a hologram. It's this glowing kind of mountain range. You can see like little villages glowing in areas, and you can see where they're showing like battles. You're seeing a battle map here, and they're talking and they're speaking in some language you don't understand.
And these things are towering over me, like they're much larger, or are we equal?
I think you're shorter than them, but you're standing amongst them.
Okay.
And again, that feeling, I think the same feeling you're feeling, that familial feeling, is like seeing older relatives. Like it's like visiting home for a holiday or a festival, and seeing like your auntie and your uncle and your great uncle and like all the elders of the village. So you feel like a child amongst elders when you see these creatures.
Okay. And there's like a battle plan. If I spin my head around, like, what is there a conversation happening, or is everyone just kind of standing?
They're speaking, but you can't understand them. And when you notice that, you hear Hashim, who's now just standing next to you. He's nodding and looking at them, like he's invited himself into this vision, and he's looking at them, and he says, "This is our dream. The first one I saw. I was just a boy, maybe 10 or 12 summers. I woke terrified. I had seen these horrible creatures, enormous and blue-skinned. I couldn't know then what I was seeing. Maybe you've dreamed about them before. Maybe not. It doesn't matter. This is where we came from. This." He gestures.
I think I'm trying to like figure out if I'm actually here. Like that's probably a little bit more pressing than what's happening. Like I have to believe that I'm here first to be able to believe whatever else is happening. Right. And that's like a big mental leap for Maharib. So I'm not trying to disrupt the memory, but I'm like feeling around, seeing if like when I grab something, if it feels tangible, if it feels real. Or if it just feels not there. Like what happens if I reach forward and like try to grab the table?
So here's what happens. Your hand mimics the movements of one of the counselors, right? They're all standing and talking. One of them leans over and, exhausted, like rubs their forehead and puts a hand down on the table. And you're not physically moving, right? You don't move your intention is like, I want to feel the table. Is it real? They put their hand on it and you feel the table, but not with your own hands. You feel what it felt like for them to touch the table. You feel their worry. You feel the heavy burden of whatever it is they're struggling with, like you're this person for just a moment. You have this perfect alignment of empathy with them, and that's how you touch the table.
I think I retract the second that feeling washes over me. Hashim, what is this? I think those are giants, but I felt what he did. It felt. What is going on?
I can't explain it to you, but you'll come to understand. What they knew, what they left behind for us, all of it is stored here. And he hits you with one finger, just bang, hits you in the sternum. And when he does, it's as if like a firework is going off, like everything gets bright. You feel like a sudden head rush. You stumble backwards. It's kind of like the Doctor Strange where he gets punched and like his spirit separates out. Yeah, so he taps you hard enough to kind of like shock your consciousness. And I need you to make one more save for me.
Wisdom?
Yeah, one more wisdom save.
14.
Okay, now this is a fail, but I know you have an ability that allows you to re-roll failures.
Oh yeah, let me look here. Yes, I get that back on long rest. Did I have a long rest?
I think it's reasonable to use it again, right? This is like a one-off episode and you're all by yourself. So if I was like, you don't have any of your abilities, you'd fucking die. So yeah, go ahead and make a roll if you want.
Okay. Yeah, I have 2 Indomitables. Here's another roll, 12, and I'll mark the last one. Here's the roll, 21.
Okay. There you go. Okay. So here's what happens. He taps you in the chest really hard. That bright flash happens. Now we'll catch up with what Maharib sees, but actually no, Maharib sees this. So Maharib, you are now standing next to your own body, and your body is lying there, eyes open, drool dripping out of your mouth, and you're just laying there. Your chest isn't rising or falling, and Hashim is looking down at it and shaking his head, and he looks at you and he says, "Is this how you want to go? Dead in a stone box underground? Some insane person poisoning you? Huh? Are you ready to die?" And he looks over, and you see the psychopomp. You see you're the ghost of your mother, and she's waiting and looking at you impassively, right? And he says, "Because if you're ready to go, then go ahead. But if you want to stay, I have more answers for you."
There's probably a pretty long contemplative thought because it's first time Maharib has seen his mother, whether it's real or not, in like years, decades at this point.
Yeah.
So there's a long like look towards that path, and maybe behind her, he sees like an Amira that's like welcoming him and like gesturing like, you know, come this way, your path is done. I think after, I don't know, 20, 30 seconds of just kind of dead silence, Maharib breaks the silence and, "My mother is not dead." I think like the thing wisps away.
Yeah.
And Amira kind of like, you see her frown or kind of like shrug her shoulders and look down at the ground. "I'm not done with her yet, but it's time to let her go. Finally." I think she like wisp away.
Yeah, right. And so as this is happening, all of the sounds of your like village, the sounds of battle, the faint glow of the hallucination, all of those things one by one start to like fade away. And the Hashim looks at you and looks at the body and gestures like, "Oh, get in there."
I'll walk over to, like, for whatever reason, the whatever was creating these images has formed like a door. I'll walk over and like shut the door and turn back to Hashim and say, "Where do we begin?"
He looks at you and he says, "We have already begun. Everyone is born without their permission, but to truly live, you must choose. And you have chosen. Everything before this moment You lived with your eyes shut. Now we begin the hard work of opening them. And he says, get up. And when he says that, you sit up, suddenly back in your body, your head throbbing, but somehow you feel as if something has been cleansed from you. And you look up at him, and he's smiling, and he nods, and he says, now we can begin your training. And I think we're going to take a break. This is the place to do it.
Cool. That sounds good to me. Yeah, we're just in time.
Cool.
So let's take our break here on this special Court of Swords one shot, and we'll come back and go into part 2 right after this. We'll see you guys in about 5